There are nights when time doesn't move forward but spirals inward, like water circling a forgotten drain. You felt this when 3 hours pass like 3 minutes, or when 3 minutes stretch like lifetimes of waiting. Something ancient in you knows that time was never meant to be measured, only felt. She sits at her desk watching the clock's hands mock her urgency. Every tick echoes the same wound. Not enough time, never enough time. But beneath the surface, anxiety lives something deeper, a soul that has forgotten its own rhythm, a heart that beats to schedules written by others. This is the modern exile, living in borrowed time, while your own time starves in silence. The ancestors knew what we have forgotten. They moved with seasons, not deadlines. They honored the sacred pause between breath and action. Now we chase productivity like addicts, measuring worth in hours consumed rather than moments consecrated. This isn't about time management. It's about time remembrance. The soul doesn't follow clocks, it follows cycles, rhythms, the ancient drum of becoming. To walk with sacred time is to become a soulwalker, one who neither rushes toward tomorrow nor clings to yesterday, but dances with the eternal present that lives within each consecrated moment. What if your restlessness isn't impatience, but your soul calling you back to your true temporal rhythm? A successful architect found herself crying in parking lots, unable to name why. Her days blurred together, meetings bleeding into emails, bleeding into sleepless nights. One evening she sat in her childhood bedroom and noticed something strange. Time felt different there, slower, more real. She realized she hadn't truly felt a moment in months. Her soul had been waiting patiently, while her mind sprinted through hollow hours. Jung would call this a confrontation with Kronos, the devouring father who consumes his own children. She had been feeding her life to the machine of linear time, forgetting that the psyche moves in circles, not straight lines. An old Sufi story tells of a mystic who deliberately broke his watch and placed the pieces on his prayer rug. When asked why, he said, "I wanted to see time as fragments of eternity, not as a master demanding obedience." Each broken piece reflected light differently, some moments sharp and clear, others diffused like morning mist. This is how the soul experiences time, not as uniform units, but as qualities of light. Deep in the Amazon, there are tribes who have no word for late. Their language holds only when the river calls and when the spirit moves. Anthropologists studying them noticed their cortisol levels were half those of urban dwellers. Their nervous systems had never learned to live in artificial urgency. They were soul walkers, by birthright, moving through time as fish move through water, naturally without resistance. Have you ever looked in the mirror at 3 a.m. and seen a stranger? That's because nighttime holds different time. The ancient Greeks knew this. They had Chronos for chronological time and Kairos for the time of revelation. Midnight time is Kairos time, when the veil thins and you glimpse who you really are beneath the day's performance. The modern epidemic of anxiety isn't just about stress. It's about temporal displacement. We've been uprooted from our natural rhythms and planted in artificial schedules that don't honor the soul's seasons. The polyvagal theory shows us that trauma actually disrupts our perception of time. When we live in chronic fight or flight, moments compress into urgency and presence becomes impossible. Carl Jung understood that individuation, becoming who you truly are, requires honoring the psyche's own timing. You cannot force the shadow to integrate on your schedule. You cannot rush the process of becoming whole. The soul has its own gestation periods, its own seasons of death and rebirth. Marion Woodman spoke of the difference between doing time and being with time. Doing time is prison consciousness, counting minutes until freedom. Being with time is recognizing that every moment contains eternity, that presence is the only place where transformation occurs. When we ignore our inner timing, we develop what I call temporal dysphoria, a deep discomfort with the pace of our own becoming. We try to heal trauma in weekend workshops, find ourselves in month-long programs, achieve enlightenment through productivity hacks. But the soul moves like glaciers, slowly, powerfully, in its own ancient rhythm. Do you recognize that particular exhaustion that comes not from working too much, but from working against your own rhythm? That bone-deep tiredness that no amount of sleep can cure, because it's not your body that's tired. It's your soul, weary from being dragged through days that don't honor its natural pace. Maybe you've noticed how certain hours of the day feel more alive than others. How some seasons call you inward, while others summon your creative fire. This isn't weakness or inconsistency. It's your soul trying to teach you its sacred schedule. There's a specific grief that comes from realizing how much of your life you've lived in borrowed time. Meetings that meant nothing, hours spent productive but not present, years that passed without truly arriving. If you feel this grief, you're not broken. You're waking up. Tonight, before sleep claims you, try this. Place your hands on your heart and ask, what is my soul's time trying to tell me? Don't answer with your mind. Let your body respond. Notice if it wants to slow down, speed up, or simply rest in the space between heartbeats. For 1 week, honor 1 moment of soul time each day. This might be 5 minutes of looking at trees without thinking, writing in your journal without purpose, or simply sitting with whatever emotion wants to be felt. Don't measure these moments, consecrate them. Create what I call a temporal sanctuary, a space and time that belongs only to your soul's rhythm. No clocks, no phones, no agenda except presence. Let this become your training ground for remembering how to move through the world as a soulwalker. A woman in Greece told me she learned the difference between healing time and calendar time during her father's final illness. Calendar time said she had 2 weeks to prepare for his death. Healing time gave her decades of unfinished conversations in those last days. When we honor Kairos, the time of significance, Chronos becomes servant instead of master. Neuroscience shows us that peak experiences literally alter our perception of time. During moments of deep meaning, the brain fires differently, creating what researchers call time expansion. This is why a moment of genuine connection can feel infinite, while a day of busy work can vanish without trace. Your soul is always choosing quality over quantity. Just as nature has seasons, the psyche has its own temporal rhythms. There are times for planting, envisioning new possibilities, times for growing, actively creating, times for harvest, celebrating what we've become, and times for fallow rest, letting the soul replenish. Modern culture tries to keep us in permanent summer, always producing, always achieving. But the soul requires winter to dream new dreams. The ancient Celts honored this through their seasonal festivals, marking not just changes in weather, but shifts in psychological energy. Samhain was for communing with the ancestors within. Beltane celebrated the soul's creative fire. Each season had its sacred work, its particular medicine. Indigenous wisdom keepers speak of spiral time, the understanding that we don't move forward but around and inward, revisiting the same themes at deeper levels. This is why healing trauma isn't about getting over it, but about spiraling back to the wound with new compassion, new understanding, new capacity to hold both the pain and its gifts. When you understand spiral time, you stop judging yourself for revisiting old patterns. Instead, you ask, what deeper truth is trying to emerge through this familiar struggle? Every return is a chance for integration at a new level. The spiritual marketplace sells instant awakening like fast food, quick, convenient, digestible. But real transformation happens in what Clarissa Pinkola Estes calls the time that is not time, the liminal spaces between who you were and who you're becoming. This is uncomfortable territory because it cannot be rushed, scheduled, or optimized. True rebellion against temporal oppression isn't about rejecting all structure. It's about becoming so intimate with your own rhythms that you can move skillfully between soul time and world time without losing yourself. A soul walker navigates by internal seasons, not external pressure. They know when to say yes to the world's invitations and when to retreat into the fertile darkness of not knowing. They've learned that presence is rebellion in a culture of perpetual motion. The Sufi poet Rumi wrote, "Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray." This strange pull operates on soul time, sometimes urgent, sometimes patient, always oriented toward truth rather than efficiency. Between stimulus and response lies the sacred pause, that sliver of space where choice lives. Most of us have trained this pause out of ourselves, reacting instantly to every demand, every notification, every internal impulse. The Soulwalker cultivates this pause until it becomes a sanctuary. The polyvagal theory shows us that this pause engages our wise heart nervous system, the part that can remain calm and connected even in chaos. When we honor the pause, we're not being slow or indecisive. We're accessing the wisdom that only emerges in stillness. A monk once told me that meditation isn't about stopping thoughts. It's about changing your relationship with time itself. In deep presence, past and future collapse into an eternal now that contains everything you need for this moment. This isn't escapism, it's the most practical skill imaginable. When you live from presence, you stop trying to hoard time and start investing it wisely. You give your full attention to the conversation instead of thinking about the next appointment. You eat your food instead of planning tomorrow's meals. You feel your feelings instead of analyzing them. Paradoxically, this makes you incredibly efficient, not because you move faster, but because you stop wasting energy on mental time travel. Research on flow states reveals something ancient mystics always knew. When we align with our natural rhythms, time becomes our ally. During flow, the brain's default mode network, responsible for self-criticism and temporal anxiety, goes quiet. We drop into what neuroscientists call transient hypofrontality, a state where the inner critic dissolves and we merge with the task at hand. This isn't about achieving peak performance, it's about coming home to yourself. When we move in harmony with our deeper rhythms, we access what James Hillman called the soul's natural time, unhurried but purposeful, relaxed but fully alive. Every evening offers a chance for temporal reconciliation. Instead of reviewing your day through productivity metrics, try asking, what moments felt most alive today? When did I feel present? What rhythms was my soul calling for that I ignored? This isn't self-judgment, it's soul archaeology. You're digging through the sediment of scheduled time to find the golden moments where you touched eternity. These moments are breadcrumbs leading you back to your authentic rhythm. Depression, anxiety, and burnout often arise when we try to maintain spring energy year-round. The soul requires seasons, periods of active growth and periods of fallow rest. What our culture calls unproductive may be your soul's winter, when dreams gestate in darkness and new possibilities take root in the unconscious. Traditional Chinese medicine recognizes this through the five-element theory. Each element, wood, fire, earth, metal, water, has its season, its emotional signature, its sacred work. When we honor these internal seasons, we stop pathologizing our natural rhythms and start seeing them as medicine. A woman with severe seasonal depression discovered that her winter sadness wasn't a disorder, but a calling to deep introspection. Instead of fighting it with light therapy and forced positivity, she created winter rituals, journaling by candlelight, long baths with essential oils, early bedtimes that honored her body's call for rest. Her depression transformed into what she called fertile darkness, a time when new aspects of herself could emerge. In tarot, the Hermit card shows a figure holding a lantern in darkness, the timekeeper archetype who knows when to move forward and when to pause. This isn't about being slow or indecisive. It's about developing what Jung called chronos wisdom, the ability to sense the right timing for action, rest, creation, and release. The timekeeper lives within each of us, waiting to be consulted, Before making major decisions, try asking, is this the right time according to my soul's calendar? Your body will usually know before your mind does. Instead of filling every hour with activity, what if you scheduled time for being, for daydreaming, for feeling whatever wants to be felt? This isn't laziness, it's creating space for the soul to speak. One executive I worked with was experiencing panic attacks despite external success. When we examined her schedule, there was literally no empty space, not even 5 minutes between meetings. Her nervous system was in constant activation because there was no time for integration, for simply being human instead of human doing. She began blocking out what she called buffer time, 15 minutes between appointments just to breathe, to feel her feet on the ground, to remember who she was beneath her professional persona. The panic attack stopped not because her workload decreased, but because she'd created temporal sanctuary in the middle of temporal chaos. Sometimes our relationship with time becomes compulsive. We stay busy to avoid feeling, rush toward the future to escape the present, or cling to the past to avoid uncertainty. This is time as defense mechanism rather than creative medium. The shadow of productivity culture tells us that rest is laziness, that presence is inefficiency, that honoring our natural rhythms is self-indulgent. But this shadow serves the machine, not the soul. When we internalize these messages, we become estranged from our own life force. Many of us carry what I call temporal trauma, deep wounds around our relationship with time itself. Maybe childhood was filled with "hurry up" and "we don't have time for your feelings." Maybe early relationships demanded you move at someone else's pace. Maybe work environments penalized your natural rhythms until you forgot what they were. Healing temporal trauma requires grieving the time that was stolen and gently reclaiming your sovereign relationship with rhythm and pace. This isn't about rejecting all external structure. It's about developing such intimacy with your internal compass that you can navigate any situation without losing yourself. The self-help industry profits from our temporal anxiety, selling us systems to optimize, maximize, and hack our way to perfect time management. But what if the goal isn't to use time more efficiently, but to live time more beautifully? A Soulwalker doesn't try to optimize time, they sanctify it. They understand that some moments are meant for doing and others for simply being. They've learned that presence is more valuable than productivity, that depth trumps speed, that one moment of genuine connection can heal years of shallow interaction. Imagine that within you live 4 advisors, each representing a different temporal rhythm. Spring Advisor champions new beginnings and creative projects. Summer Advisor loves action, social connection, and bringing ideas into form. Fall Advisor specializes in reflection, harvest, and integration. Winter Advisor guards the sacred pause, the fallow time when new dreams gestate. Most of us have exiled our Winter Advisor entirely, fearing that rest equals death in our achievement-obsessed culture. But Winter Advisor holds essential medicine, the wisdom of dormancy, the intelligence of waiting, the courage to not know while new possibilities emerge in darkness. Before making any major decision, try consulting your council of inner seasons. What does each advisor counsel? When you include all 4 perspectives, your choices align with your soul's natural timing rather than external pressure. Sovereignty doesn't mean rejecting all external structure. It means developing such clear internal guidance that you can choose consciously how to engage with the world's demands. A sovereign being says yes when yes serves the soul, and no when no protects what's sacred. This requires what I call temporal boundaries, the ability to protect your energy not just from toxic people, but from toxic rhythms. Sometimes the most radical act is refusing to rush. Sometimes the deepest healing happens in the space between obligations. One of the most overlooked spiritual practices is transition time, the space between activities, between roles, between phases of life. Most of us collapse these transitions, moving from meeting to meeting, task to task, without acknowledging that we're constantly changing costumes in the theater of daily life. Sacred transition means honoring the liminal space, taking 3 conscious breaths before entering your home, sitting quietly in the car before walking into work, lighting a candle to mark the end of the day and the beginning of evening. These micro-rituals create temporal sanctuary in the midst of ordinary chaos. Before clocks colonized our consciousness, humans lived in relationship with cosmic time, moon cycles, seasonal rhythms, the daily journey of sun across sky. Indigenous cultures worldwide maintained ceremonies that honored these natural rhythms, understanding that human well-being depends on staying synchronized with larger cycles. The Lakota phrase, mitakuye oyasin, all my relations, includes temporal relationship. We don't exist in isolation from the rhythms that surround us. When we honor our connection to cosmic time, our personal timing naturally aligns with something larger than individual will. In a world of artificial intelligence and virtual reality, the most advanced technology may be the ancient skill of presence. Presence doesn't require any external device, just the willingness to fully arrive in this moment, this body, this breath. Presence is revolutionary because it refuses the tyranny of mental time travel. When you're truly present, you're not rehearsing the future or rehashing the past. You're available to what's actually happening, which is where all real power lives. There's a prophecy emerging in these times of temporal chaos, a new breed of humans who remember how to walk in sacred time. These Soulwalkers will not be hermits hiding from modernity, but bridge builders who can move skillfully between soul time and world time without losing their center. They'll be the healers who take time with their patients, the teachers who prioritize depth over curriculum, the leaders who make decisions from wisdom rather than pressure. They'll model a different way of being human, one that honors both efficiency and soul, both doing and being, both achievement and presence. Each morning offers a chance to resurrect your relationship with sacred time. Instead of immediately checking your phone or mentally rehearsing the day's obligations, try asking, what rhythm is my soul calling for today? What quality of time wants to emerge? Some days will feel like dance music, quick, energetic, full of movement. Others will feel like meditation music, slow, deep, spacious. Neither is better than the other. The art lies in recognizing what's being asked for and honoring it as best you can within your external circumstances. Evening practice isn't about reviewing what you accomplished, but about reconciling with how you moved through time. Did you honor any moments of soul time today? When did you feel most present? What rhythms were you faithful to, and which ones did you abandon? This isn't judgment, it's inventory. You're taking stock of your temporal choices so you can make more conscious ones tomorrow. Like any skill, learning to walk in sacred time requires practice, patience, and self-compassion. Even if you're not religious, the Sabbath principle offers profound wisdom. 1 day in 7 for a different relationship with time. A day when you don't try to accomplish anything, don't measure progress, don't optimize or improve, just be. This terrifies our achievement-addicted culture, but it's essential medicine. The Sabbath creates a temporal sanctuary where you remember that your worth isn't tied to your output, that you're valuable simply for existing, that presence is more precious than productivity. In the end, sacred time isn't something you manage, it's something you become. When you align with your soul's rhythm, every moment becomes a prayer, every transition a small ceremony, every day a chance to practice presence. You'll know you're living in sacred time when you stop feeling like you're racing against the clock and start feeling like you're dancing with eternity. When you can be fully here while still honoring your commitments, when you can rest without guilt and work without anxiety, when time becomes ally rather than enemy. The path of the Soulwalker isn't about perfection, it's about relationship. Relationship with your own rhythms, with the seasons of your becoming, with the eternal presence that lives within each passing moment. Some days you'll forget, and get caught in temporal anxiety. Some days you'll remember and move through your hours like a prayer. Both are part of the journey. The goal isn't to never lose your center, but to keep returning to it again and again, until coming home to sacred time becomes your most natural rhythm. There's a moment, you've felt it, when time stops and you glimpse something eternal. Maybe it was watching sunset light on water. Maybe it was holding a sleeping child. Maybe it was sitting in grief so profound that past and future dissolved into an infinite now. This is the time that is not time, the moment that contains all moments, the eternal presence that mystics through ages have pointed toward. It's always here, waiting patiently while you run around believing in the illusion of scarcity. It's the deepest teaching sacred time has to offer. You are not running out of time because you are time. You are the eternal awareness in which all experiences arise and pass away. The time you consecrate becomes temple. The moments you honor become medicine. The rhythm you follow becomes prayer. Walk gently through your days, dear Soulwalker, for you carry eternity in each step. Time was never your enemy. It was always your teacher, waiting for you to slow down enough to receive its deepest lesson. That presence is the only place where transformation occurs. Love flows freely, and the soul remembers its infinite nature. In this remembering, you become what you've always been, not a slave to time, but time's sacred partner in the dance of becoming. If this resonates in your bones, if you recognize the call to become a soul walker, share this with someone who also feels exiled from their own rhythm. Sometimes the greatest gift we can offer another soul is the reminder that sacred time still exists, waiting patiently for us to return home to our truest rhythm. The path of sacred time isn't walked alone. It's a return to the ancient understanding that we are all part of the same cosmic dance, all participants in the same eternal becoming. Your journey back to sacred time is also a healing for the collective wound of temporal displacement. Walk gently, walk consciously, walk in the rhythm that calls your soul home.